Hey, just a quick little note. Wanted to let you know that this video that you're about to see was actually recorded a couple of weeks ago. And it was just a couple of days ago, as I was editing that video, that unfortunately we lost Sir Sean Connery. He passed away. And I was editing the video and I kind of thought, maybe it was a little harsh on his final James Bond movie in this review, but please take that into consideration that, hey, a movie's a movie and it deserves an honest review, right? Rest in peace, Sir Sean Connery. You will be missed. You know what I mean, right? I'm going to show you where we're at with these James Bond movies now. Okay, I did a first video up to here, 5 movies. Then I did a second video of these 3 movies, so that's 8. Then I did 5 Roger Moore movies in a row, which makes it 13. Now today I'm going to talk about this little chunk right here, these 4 movies. So that'll make 14, 15, 16, and 17 movies that I've gone through on VHS. Watched them on this TV VCR combo unit here, which I watch all my VHS movies on. And you know, we'll continue to do so until the thing craps out, I suppose. But yeah, today, these 4 movies. Never Say Never Again, View to a Kill, The Living Daylights, and License to Kill. This one, Never Say Never Again, isn't really an official James Bond movie. I mean, as you can see by the cover here, we got Sean Connery in there, and Sean Connery is James Bond in Never Say Never Again. Who made this? I don't know, but this one is Warner Brothers. It was sort of a sneaky comeback movie for James Bond. This is a remake, a redux of Thunderball. Remember that movie? The villain with the eye patch feeds people to sharks. A lot of underwater stuff. It was okay. The one thing I didn't really like about Thunderball was the underwater scenes. Yeah, they were as good as they could be, I suppose, but they just weren't very exciting. And it was very confusing near the end of it. Just like, who's the good guys, who's the bad guys? They're all fighting underwater and they're shooting spear guns and stuff, and, you know, submarines and all that, and people die. Underwater violence, just, it's weird, and it's weird and confusing. And so this being a remake of Thunderball, it's pretty much the same as that. Let's be honest here. This movie, Never Say Never Again, I'm going to say I'm probably never going to watch Never Say Never Again, because it's boring as shit. It really is. It drags along. I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot more character development with James Bond. Sean Connery's James Bond. It's the most human story of James Bond. You know, he has to deal with like getting older and stuff like that. And James Bond was what, like 56 or 57? Not James Bond, rather Sean Connery was like 56 or 57 when he did this movie. Still younger than Roger Moore, though. Actually, a trio of villains in here are played by Barbara Carrera, plays a female henchman. She's thoroughly evil and, you know, ruthless and quite dangerous and beautiful, of course. Dangerously beautiful. Max von Sydow in the role of Blofeld, which I was happy to see they kept that character in there. You know, this time he's not bald. He doesn't have the Nehru jacket on, you know, the collarless sort of thing. And he has a mustache, which is new for Blofeld. But he does have the cat. That's how you know that's the guy, right? Played by Klaus Maria Brandauer. I hope I'm saying that correctly. He plays the role of Largo, the villain in this. Back in Thunderball, this dude would have had an eye patch. Big black eye patch. That's how you know he's the villain. This one, he's a mentally unstable genius billionaire European guy. I don't know. He's actually quite good. Like, the acting is very good in this movie. It's one thing I'm going to say about it. One positive thing. However, it's boring as shit. It took forever for me to get through this movie. Not a complete waste of time, though. There's actually a lot of talent went into making this. It's the director was, well, he's got quite a resume because he's the director of the greatest movie ever made, which would be, I mean, come on. You don't know. The Empire Strikes Back. Irvin Kershner is the director in this. Unfortunately, the screenplay or just the overall execution of this movie just did not work for me. I prefer Thunderball. And remember back in the day when I said, well, back in the day being 2 months ago, when I said that my least favorite James Bond movie so far was On Her Majesty's Secret Service? We got a new winner, folks. Yeah, just because it was so dull. There is one semi-memorable scene in this movie, and that's when James Bond is at a casino, and he's gambling, I suppose. But then he finds our antagonist, Largo, who, of course, like owns the casino or whatever. And instead of playing him at any like casino games or anything like that, he is challenged to a video game duel. It comes off so stupid and so crappy. It's, you know, the sound effects, like, okay, basically what you get are shots of like the most crude, you can't even call it CGI, but computer graphics, and you know, playing this game that looks like, I don't know, Tempest or something like that, 2 joysticks or something, and basically the whole scene, it's intercut with, you know, like these crappy video game graphics, and James Bond and Klaus Maria Brandauer, basically shots of them going like this. Pew, 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 and it's like so ridiculous. And I guess the setup here is that I guess like you get shocked every time you make a wrong move or your enemy scores a point against you or something like that. And so like James Bond gets shocked a bunch of times and then he loses the game and he's like, double or nothing. And I want to, you know, I don't want the money. I want a date with Kim Basinger, who's like, you know, Largo's like prisoner or whatever. The scene is so dumb, and like I said, if you could go listen to some video game soundtracks from 1983, and yeah, and then watch Sean Connery play with Atari joysticks. So dumb. Speaking of soundtrack, this movie has like 0 official James Bond music in it. Because it's made by a different company. It's not made by Eon Films, who made all the other ones. Yeah, and it's just weird watching Sean Connery sneaking around and doing stuff and not hearing the doom 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 doom. You know what I mean, right? Yeah, you don't hear any of that in here. Never Say Never Again. Man. You know, kudos to Connery for coming back and doing one more James Bond movie so that he could tie the record with, or at the time, I guess, beat Roger Moore's record of how many James Bond movies are in. Never Say Never Again. Never again. Then you got this one. View to a Kill. The final Roger Moore James Bond. This one was pleasantly entertaining. After slogging through Never Say Never Again, I was like, dude, that's 14 James Bond movies. How many more do I have to go? And I was on a real downer after that last one because it took me so long to get through it. Then it came time to watch this one, and I was kind of like, I remembered it a little bit from the theater when I saw this back in the day. I saw this in the theater in 1985. I didn't really remember too much about it other than the fact that Duran Duran does the theme song for this one, and it's actually a good song. And just like all the other James Bond themes, they work it into the action scenes and stuff like that. They work it into the soundtrack so that they play little snippets of it or whatever in all the scenes in the movie, and they interweave it with the classic James Bond themes. Yeah, Duran Duran is a good song. It's okay. I mean, it's not great. It's not my favorite Duran Duran song and not my favorite James Bond theme song, but it's good. Then you got one major selling point in here is Christopher Walken is in this one. He plays Max Zorin, the bad guy. He has this plan. He owns like oil wells and stuff like that in California. And it has to do with like the Bay Area of California, the fault lines and things like that, San Andreas faults. And basically, Christopher Walken's plan, Max Zorin's plan, is that he wants to cause an earthquake, trigger the San Andreas fault, and flood Silicon Valley, and destroy the industry in Silicon Valley so that he can basically have a monopoly on the market for computer chips. Yeah, it's 1985, right? Seems like a pretty good villainous plan, don't you think? And Christopher Walken, of course, plays a good villain, right? Because he's a kind of a weird dude. But Grace Jones, who plays Mayday, who's like an assassin, she's ruthless and she's deadly. And eventually gets betrayed by Max Zorin near the end of the film, and she ends up sacrificing herself so that his plan is foiled. Quite memorable, I think. Grace Jones, I mean, does she even get a picture on the box? No. Oh, she does. Here. That's Grace Jones right there. Okay, so first of all, the opening scene, it's pretty dumb. It's another ski chase scene. James Bond gets chased down a mountain by guys with machine guns on skis. Guys on skis with machine guns. I don't know what it is, but that's a James Bond thing. It's a trope, right? Anyway, so he skis down the mountain. He's somehow being pursued by guys on skis with machine guns, and he somehow loses a ski and skis on one ski, which kind of turns into like a snowboarding sort of scene. And curiously enough, he's doing snowboard tricks and stuff, which is obviously not Roger Moore. Roger Moore was like almost 60 when they did this movie. So it's, professional skiers, stuntmen and whatever, and they're doing their thing, and it is what it is, right? It's a ski chase. I don't know, what is it with ski chases, man? Every time James Bond goes to the mountains, there's guys with machine guns on skis chasing him. I just don't get it. This is the introduction of snowboarding to the James Bond franchise, because that's basically what he's doing. As he's snowboarding, I guess it's supposed to be like kind of like surfing, is they're alluding to, because while he's doing that, they switch from James Bond music into California Girls by the Beach Boys. Why? It takes place in Russia on the side of a mountain. Or it's supposed to be like Siberia or something like that. It has nothing to do with the Beach Boys or California Girls. And even like, you draw the connection between like skiing to snowboarding to surfing, and then you get to the Beach Boys. I just don't get it. And there's no girls in the scene, and they ain't in California, and they're not surfing. So whatever. It's it's played for laughs, or for you can go, oh, that James Bond, he's so clever, and he escapes his pursuers, and he skis down the mountain, and nobody's looking, and he gets to the shoreline, because the mountains are directly right there, right at the shoreline in Siberia, and he skis towards what looks to be like an iceberg. So obviously not an iceberg. It's the fakest looking thing ever. Turns out to be a submarine. And he skis over to there, and he jumps in and takes his skis off. And there's like this big circular bed in the middle of it. And there's a female agent there. And he's like, oh, darling. And he cracks open opens a bottle of wine or some shit. And it's like, and then they get in this like submarine, and because it turns out to be a submarine, shaped like an iceberg or something, and then they travel back to America or London or wherever the heck they're going. It's so dumb. There's a scene takes place on the Eiffel Tower. It kind of like starts like inside the tower. I guess there's like a pavilion or a theater or something like that inside the Eiffel Tower. Where a dude is assassinated right in front of James Bond, and then he pursues the assassin, who turns out to be Mayday, Grace Jones, chases her up the tower, and then she base jumps off of the Eiffel Tower, which was, a real stunt that was really performed, probably not by Grace Jones, but by an accomplished stunt person, of course. Yeah, so she jumps off, parachutes, and gets away. Well, we think she gets away, but not yet. James Bond has to, first of all, he gets down to street level, spots her, steals a taxi, drives it up on the sidewalk, almost runs over a bunch of people, and then somehow he gets in a car accident that actually shears off the back half of the car. And we get the dumbest, like, I thought they only did this in cartoons, where he's driving the front half of the car with two wheels, and it's dragging on the ground, and he's like, and he drives it up the steps and stuff, and there's no way that thing would drive. Come on, man. Like, isn't that convenient that, that half of the car just runs perfectly? Right, you don't need four wheels. This is James Bond, man. It's quite an exciting scene, I suppose, but that kind of lets you know, Roger Moore, his movies, they never really took the action all that seriously. A lot of it is just played for laughs. And in this one, there's some really ridiculous stuff that happens. Then there's like this chase scene with Tanya Roberts is driving the fire truck, and James Bond is like on the ladder and stuff, and the ladder's swinging out, and he's hanging off the ladder, and it's just really dumb. Like, for some reason, every couple of movies, James Bond is being chased by police cars. This is another one, and they're being chased by police cars in San Francisco. In this fire truck, and they jump the fire truck over a lift bridge, one of these, and they jump the fire truck over it, and then all these other cop cars are try to go up the ramp or whatever as it's ascending, and they're crashing all these cars and stuff, and then James Bond just gets away, drives right from downtown San Francisco out to like Silicon Valley, which I think is like probably a hour or 2 hours drive, something like that, if you're going top speed in a frickin' fire truck. And let me tell you, it is not that easy to get out of San Francisco. Maybe in 1985 it was different, but San Francisco is a nightmare to drive through. But they somehow managed to drive this fire truck all through the night, because this chase scene takes place at night, and the very next scene they arrive in Silicon Valley in the Zoran's secret base or whatever, and they still got the fire truck, and they've been driving it through the night. Apparently the next scene takes place during the day, and James Bond is driving, and he wakes up Tanya Roberts and goes, "Oh, we're there." How in the hell can you drive out of a major city being pursued by dozens of police cars, and you get over a bridge, and then you just get away, and you drive like traffic doesn't flow that easily out of San Francisco. Somebody's gonna see you in the most conspicuous vehicle in the world. I mean, I suppose if you turn the siren on, people will be like, "Oh, get out of the way," so this fire truck can go through. But I mean, the cops are obviously going to see you. I mean, they're going to be putting out an APB on you, right? And you tell me no cops were able to like spot this fire truck barreling down the highway towards Silicon Valley. The dumbest part of this whole movie, though, has to be when they disarm the bomb that's supposed to like blow up Silicon Valley or trigger an earthquake that destroys Silicon Valley. Doesn't go off. Doesn't do what it's supposed to do. So James Bond and Tanya Roberts, they get separated, but they both kind of escape from the secret lair or whatever. James Bond is calling out to Tanya Roberts, and he's like, "Tracy, look out!" And suddenly this blimp appears behind her, and Christopher Walken, Max Zorin, like kind of leans out of the blimp, and he just like grabs her, and he like snuck up on her in a blimp. Yeah, I don't know how that works. Like, those things have like enormous fans on them that like you'd be able to hear that from a kilometer away, and it's like, and like how does she manage to get caught by a blimp? They don't move that fast. And, like, did you not see this coming? Like, it's just a dumb plot. Like, why don't they just why didn't he just grab her and then go into the blimp? Story-wise. Like, why do they write it that way? Because I'm pretty sure it's pretty hard to sneak up on somebody in a blimp. Yeah, the ending is exciting. There's a showdown between James Bond and Max Zorin on the top of the Golden Gate Bridge. That's a cool scene. And then eventually they blow up the blimp in the end, and Christopher Walken falls to his death. His character does. Compared to Never Say Never Again, View to a Kill is way better. Way better, probably because it's more ridiculous. And because it's goofy and it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's not a character study. It's an action movie. It's fun. It was a really good, one of the better, probably one of the best Roger Moore movies, in my opinion. Not the best, but one of them. So, okay, old guys, you've had your shot. You both did 7 movies. Commendable for both actors. You both did your time. Good job, both you guys. Now it's time for a new guy. And this would be... last movie was 1985. This one is 1987. The Living Daylights. Now, this introduces us to Timothy Dalton as James Bond, who I think is a pretty good fit. He's a lot younger than either of those two previous guys. Or I suppose even younger than the other guy that only did one movie. Yeah, he seems a little more serious, a little bit more darker in character, a little less goofy and uptight, hoity-toity, British proper. Hang on a moment, darling. You know, like, that's not this guy. He's more serious. Still, you know, there's some goofy, fun stuff in this movie. But overall, I'd have to say it's a pretty good transition, if you will, from the cheesiness of the early 80s to the more refined action movie of the late 80s. This one is a solid action movie, I think. There's a lot of scenes in it that, you know, not completely unlike all the previous James Bond films, but done and maybe edited and put together in a more modern kind of way. And you can see how it transitions from the old tropes and, you know, hangs on to a few of those, but it brings it into a new era, I think. It has the James Bond spy car, the Aston Martin, which I believe is featured in the Connery movies back in the day. And he takes it out for a spin, and he ends up getting chased in the snow again, of course, because don't go out in the snow, James Bond, because there's going to be dudes with guns. And there is, of course, dudes with machine guns on skis coming after him. But he ends up driving, the first part of the scene, driving across like a frozen lake. And he's got a supercar, of course. It's got like a frickin'... It drops mines or bombs, or it's got missiles and like laser beams that can like shoot out of the tires and like take out the enemy vehicle's tires and stuff. And I think he like cuts a car in half or something like that with it, and it's so dumb. Again, you know, you thought you were done with that cheesy stuff, but they stuck this scene in there. You got your supercar, your gadgety moment in this movie. And of course, somehow he has to ditch the car, you know, down the side of a mountain, pursued by guys on skis with machine guns. It's the second movie in a row they did that, and probably the fifth or sixth overall with that trope in there. Twist on the end of it, though. Now he's escaping across the, I guess at the time would have been the Czechoslovakian border into Austria, down a slope, with the female protagonist in tow, who is a cellist, by the way. They have the cello case with them, and they end up like flipping it open, sitting in it side by side on each of the two halves of the cello case, and sledding down the mountain. And James Bond is using the cello like a rudder to control the... That can't be good for that instrument. Like, which apparently is like a Stradivarius, and it's like this rare, you know, exquisite piece of art, history, musical instrument. And here he is, like, digging it in the snow and making tight turns and stuff, and skiing on the case, like sledding on the case. And yeah, James Bond, maybe not a music lover, I guess. I'm just gonna say, you know, I really like the Timothy Dalton movies. I was excited to watch this one, and I wasn't disappointed. It was a good, solid James Bond movie. The last movie that I have to show you for today is License to Kill. I like this one. I like it better than the previous one. And after watching this, I was like, oh, that's all we're going to get from this guy? It's too bad, because like this one is a little different than a lot of the James Bond movies. I swear to God, if you took out a few of the like spy gadgets and things like that, it'd be like a Stallone movie or a Schwarzenegger movie or something, with the way that the villain is, the way that the situation is, and all the action. There's a lot of action in this movie, and some of it's pretty exciting. Like, well, it's all pretty exciting. James Bond and his cohort, Felix Leiter of the CIA, character that appeared way back in the Connery years, and they kept him up all through Roger Moore movies. And yeah, Felix Leiter is an American agent. He's an ally of James Bond. James Bond is the best man at Felix's wedding, and just before they're on their way to the wedding, they're driving there, and suddenly they get a tip that notorious drug lord, crime boss Franz Sanchez is he's conducting some illegal activity, and we got a tip. We know where he is. We're gonna go get him. We're gonna capture him. And they, this is an exciting scene where they actually do capture him. It's kind of a neat scene where they're in a helicopter, and James Bond gets lowered down by a rope. He's got a hook, and he lands on the plane that the villain is escaping in, and he somehow hooks the plane, and then the helicopter drags the plane with the bad guy in it and takes him off jail. Yeah, it's far-fetched, but hey, it's James Bond, man. It's a cool opening action scene. They have a wedding to get to, right? So they put on their parachutes and they skydive, and they land right in the venue where the wedding is being held, and almost like right at the altar. And it's like, okay, let's go. Straighten his tie or whatever, and we find out that Sanchez bribes his way to freedom, gets away, and he takes revenge on Felix Leiter and his new bride, and they have her killed, and Felix gets captured and fed to sharks, but he does survive the shark attack, and he's alive till the end of the movie. Spoilers. James Bond freaks out. He's like, how could they do this? Those evil bastards, and vows to take revenge on Sanchez. He's confronted by his superiors, and they're telling him, stay away from this case. This is not your jurisdiction. Your license to kill has been revoked. Bond says, fuck you then, I'm gonna go get this guy, I don't care. Very full of rage and desiring to really get this guy. And yeah, actually, about this guy, that guy, the guy with the iguana, Sanchez, played by Robert Davi, who is like always plays a bad guy in 80s movies, and he's in a lot of action movies. This scary looking dude. His demeanor is basically in this movie he's channeling his inner Scarface, I guess you could say, because he really reminds me of like Tony Montana. And it doesn't hurt that of course he's the Cuban drug lord, right? Yeah, he's a really good villain in this movie, and he does some despicable things. One of his henchmen is a very young Benicio del Toro. Well, I don't suppose very young. He's not like a child or anything. Who's kind of a dirtbag, and it seems like these bad guys in this James Bond movie seem like real villains. Like, they're not super villains. They don't have a laser pointed at Washington D.C. and on the video conference call demanding $1 million. Like it's not like that at all. It's more like like I said, it's like a criminal empire. James Bond gets all mixed up in it, and he wants to take this guy down. And it's like, you know, it's a revenge story, is what it is. A lot of shenanigans in this one. There's some stuff that kind of I wasn't expecting for this movie. For instance, Q is back. The original actor, Desmond Llewellyn, who made his debut way back in From Russia with Love. Same guy. And in this movie, he's got to be in his 70s, I think, or 60s at least. Probably 70s, early 70s. Anyway, the guy's old AF. And he actually gets to do like some field work in this too, which is pretty good. Like, you know, he doesn't really do much more than like driving and, you know, just accompanying James Bond with, and he brings him some gadgets, right? Brings him like an old school camera that looks like a movie camera that can be converted into a sniper rifle. But the gadgets aren't, you know, too heavily featured in this movie. But I was pleasantly surprised to see Q back in there, because I always thought the guy was amusing and funny, and they brought him back again, and that's great. And hey, you go, man. I think this guy's in like another 2 or 3 movies after that too. He even survived, well, not survived, because the actor passed away sometime in the middle of the Brosnan movies, I think, which are coming up. Female protagonist in this, who's an American, I guess, freelance agent. She's not really a spy. She's more of a, I don't know if she's a criminal. Anyway, she teams up with James Bond. She's a professional pilot, I think, and she can handle a gun and handle herself in a bar fight pretty well. And she's a good action co-star. Although I can't remember her name. Pam? I think her name is Pam. Curiously, there's a lot of plane stunts, including the one at the beginning with James Bond jumps onto the plane and they capture the plane. There's a scene where he drops from a plane onto a semi-truck, a big tanker, 18-wheeler trailer sort of deal. And there's a really good chase scene at the end. Remember I was saying, oh, this is more serious. It's not full of the cheesy little zinger one-liners. Sort of a lot of the goofier James Bond tropes. There wasn't so much of that in this movie until you get to that last scene, which there's intense, really cool action scenes in it. But there's a scene where, as I said, James Bond jumps from the plane onto the back of this 18-wheeler tanker truck, and eventually like commandeers it and stuff. And it's kind of like I got like Indiana Jones kind of vibes in terms of the action in this movie. And so he commandeers the truck. Someone shoots a missile at him. A bad guy shoots a missile at him. And I don't know if this is even possible to do, but the 18-wheeler, goes on its side on 9 wheels, I guess, and does the, I did the tip of the car, like in Diamonds Are Forever, where he drives the car and drives it on its side. Does that with a semi-truck and trailer in this movie, and kind of dodges out of the way, and the missile goes underneath the truck and blows up the truck behind him. The bad guys get blown up, and he's driving without the trailer, just the truck. And there's big explosions and stuff like that, and you see him driving out, and he pops a wheelie in this big truck, and which I'm pretty sure that's I mean, I don't know a lot about these big trucks. I'm not an expert on trucking maneuvers, but I'm pretty sure those things are kind of impossible to do with those kinds of machines in real life. I mean, of course, this is movie magic, man. But popping a wheelie in a big tractor trailer, like, come on, man. That being said, still the ending, like, action scene, like the climax of the movie, is quite exciting, and it made for a really good film. I would have to say this is probably License to Kill. This was the first time I ever saw this movie. Was just now for this review. I'd never seen this movie before, and I gotta say that I'd probably put this in maybe my top 5 James Bond movies of all time. And after watching this and The Living Daylights, it's just really too bad that Timothy Dalton never continued to play the character, because he was quite good as James Bond and quite different from the previous guys. Okay, so we've gone through all of these so far. Now all of these. We only have 4 movies left to do. Only 4. I'm pretty sure it's not going to take me quite as long to get through these as it did this last batch. I suppose I'll eventually go on and watch and review the Daniel Craig movies, which I hear are quite good. The problem with the Daniel Craig movies, though, is that I can't get them on VHS, and this is supposed to be about VHS, right? We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But for now, stay safe out there.